There's a particular kind of tired that has nothing to do with how much sleep you got. It's a tired in your legs, in your chest, in the parts of you that used to just work without asking permission first. If you're diabetic and past 60, you already know exactly the tired I mean. I'm Robert. I'm 83. And I spent years blaming that tired on age before I understood it had a name and a mechanism. I mow my own quarter-acre of lawn every week from April through October. Push mower, no rider, no help. At 83, I still do it in one pass without stopping to catch my breath halfway through. Let me ask you something. Have you ever noticed that on the days your blood sugar has been running high, your body just feels heavier everywhere? Your legs, your energy, all of it, including the parts that matter most in a marriage? That's not a coincidence, and it's not just age catching up with you. That's one shared circulatory system struggling in more than one place at the same time. I remember a stretch not long after my late wife and I had been through a rough patch with her health, where I noticed I was tired in a way that made me quiet, made me pull back physically without ever saying why. I didn't have language for it then. I just knew I felt like less of a partner, and I assumed that was simply what 80 looked like. Nobody ever sat me down and explained that fatigue and blood flow to every part of the body, including the parts nobody talks about at the dinner table, come from the exact same well. Here's the mechanism, because understanding it changes how you think about the whole problem. Chronically elevated blood sugar does two things at once. First, it damages the lining of your smallest blood vessels, your endothelium, reducing their ability to release nitric oxide, the molecule responsible for signaling vessels to relax and widen so blood can actually get where it needs to go. Second, when your muscle cells aren't pulling glucose out of your bloodstream efficiently, that glucose lingers at high levels in your blood, which is exactly what causes the vessel damage in the first place. And it also leaves you feeling drained, because your cells aren't getting the fuel they need even though there's plenty of sugar floating around. Research on skeletal muscle and insulin resistance has documented this cycle for years. It's often described as the primary driver behind fatigue in type 2 diabetes, separate from simply not sleeping enough. Your doctor knows glucose control matters for energy and for circulation. What he doesn't usually have time to explain in a visit built around lab numbers and prescription refills is the specific mechanical thing you can do, minutes before you need your body to perform, to give your circulation an immediate boost rather than waiting on your medication and your diet to slowly improve things over months.
I think part of why nobody explains this well is that it sits in an awkward gap between two specialties. Your endocrinologist manages your blood sugar. Nobody else in the exam room is thinking about the few minutes right before your body needs to perform at its best, in the moment, tonight, not in 3 months when your A1C comes back improved. That gap is exactly where men my age quietly give up, assuming there's nothing to actually do in the moment except hope for the best or reach for a pill. I want to be plain about something else, too. This isn't about masking a serious medical problem with a stretching routine. If circulation problems are severe or new or paired with chest pain or numbness, that's a conversation for your doctor immediately, not a video. What I'm describing here is a supportive mechanical habit for the everyday fatigue and sluggish circulation that so many diabetic men my age simply accept as permanent, without ever testing whether a small, physical intervention could help in the moment. If your feet burn at night, or go numb, or feel cold no matter how many socks you wear, please don't ignore it. I almost did, and I'm 80 years old. For years I told myself it was just age, the tingling, the heaviness in my legs climbing the stairs. But it wasn't age. It was my blood sugar quietly damaging the nerves and the circulation in my legs, and almost nobody warned me in time. If you let it keep going, those little signals turn into something you can't undo. I wasn't willing to lose my feet or my independence. So I started doing one thing every single day to help support healthy blood sugar and protect my legs. I'll show you exactly what in this video. And if you want the simple support I personally use, there's a free presentation linked in the description below. Here's the trick, and it's not complicated, and that's exactly the point. A few minutes before you want your body at its best, whether that's an evening with your wife or a walk with your grandkids, Do 2 minutes of calf raises and ankle circles. Stand at the counter, rise up onto your toes and back down 20 or 30 times, then rotate each ankle slowly in both directions for 30 seconds. Your calf muscles contain what's sometimes called the second heart, a network that, when contracted rhythmically, pushes pooled blood back up out of your lower legs and into general circulation. At the same time, that muscle contraction triggers glucose uptake into the muscle cells through a pathway that works independently of insulin. Research in exercise physiology has documented this GLUT4 transporter activation for years as one of the more reliable ways to lower blood glucose in the short term, minutes, not months. What that means practically: better blood flow reaching tissue that depends on it, and a small, real dip in circulating glucose right when you need your body least burdened by it. I want to be careful here and not overpromise. This is a mechanical circulation and glucose assist, not a guarantee, and nothing works identically every single time for every man. But the mechanism behind it is real and well documented, which is more than I can say for most of what gets sold in this space. And like anything worth doing, it works better as part of a system rather than alone. Alongside the 2-minute movement, I eat a handful of walnuts or a piece of fatty fish most days. Omega-3 fatty acids have been studied for their association with improved endothelial function, meaning your vessels dilate more readily when called on. And most evenings, I take a 10-minute walk after dinner, which helps pull additional glucose out of my bloodstream through that same muscle contraction pathway, keeping my numbers steadier through the night. The 2-minute trick handles the moment. The walk and the diet handle the months. You need both. These days, I split my own firewood every fall, an hour at a stretch, and last week I danced with my granddaughter at her wedding for 3 full songs without needing to sit down. 2 years ago, I couldn't have told you I'd be able to do either one. I want to tell you about Cornelius Aldape. 74 years old, retired postal carrier out of Boise, Idaho, 31 years walking routes in every kind of weather, and diabetes had quietly worn him down over almost 2 decades by the time he found our channel. He told our group the fatigue was what scared him most, more than any single number on a lab report. He said he felt like he was fading out of his own marriage a little at a time, not from any single event, just from exhaustion that never lifted. After he started the 2-minute counter routine before evenings with his wife, alongside his walks, his diet changes, and his medication exactly as prescribed, he told our group that within a few weeks he noticed his energy in the evenings felt more dependable, less like a coin flip. He was careful, and so am I, to say that no single habit accounts for everything that improved for him. Sleep, diet, and his doctor's guidance all played a role too. I share his experience as one man's story, not a promise. Every case of diabetes carries its own history. What he said that stayed with me longest was about his own expectations. He told our group he'd stopped expecting anything of his own body years before he ever tried the counter routine, and that the hardest part wasn't physical at all. It was allowing himself to hope again after years of quietly writing himself off. He said the 2 minutes at the counter became less about the mechanism and more about a small daily reminder that he still had some say in how his own body showed up for him. That shift in mindset, he said, mattered nearly as much as anything measurable. Please don't stop or adjust any medication because of anything shared here. Talk with your doctor about your circulation, your energy, and your numbers before making any changes, including a 2-minute habit at the kitchen counter. I think often about the difference between the men I know who are still dancing at family weddings, still splitting their own wood, still reaching for their wives without hesitation, and the ones who quietly stopped trying, assuming the fatigue and everything tied to it was simply the price of getting old with diabetes. It isn't a fixed price. Blood flow responds to attention at any age, and there's real hope in understanding that the tiredness and the rest of it were never separate problems to begin with. They were always the same river, and rivers can be tended. If you made it this far, you already understand more about your own legs than most people your age ever will. That matters. You know now that the burning, the numbness, the cold feet, they trace back to one thing: blood sugar slowly working against your nerves and circulation. And you know the goal isn't a miracle. It's protecting your ability to stand, to walk, to stay independent. That's why, alongside everything I showed you today, I use a simple daily support to help keep my blood sugar in a healthy range, so my legs keep carrying me where I want to go. I put the free presentation in the description below. Go watch it. And as always, keep working with your doctor. This supports your routine. It doesn't replace it. If fatigue has been part of your story with diabetes, tell me in the comments how long you've noticed it. I read every single one. And if this kind of honest, mechanism-first information matters to you, subscribe, because we break down exactly this, one real cause at a time, every week.